summarized by. I'll get into in just a second. But for now, let's just go ahead and drill into the events specific to the alerts that we saw there. So then, again, this is a very traditional security analyst type of view. We're listing blow by blow the changes that have happened in timestamp order. So I have here the rule message, the event count, how many times did I see this specific event, source IP, destination IP, what protocol was involved since this was on SQL servers on TDS ports, and the last time that event happened. If I actually click on the event down here, you'll see under a tab called packet data that I have the actual alert that was registered, the actual alert text that was registered with this event. So it gives me that nice detailed event access within seconds. This is a very large data set. We have several hundred million security events sitting in our demo system, billions of flow records, and I can immediately access this data on demand. Now, this is interesting. I can come in here and say, okay, I see that someone was inserting into test 2 these values. That's certainly interesting, and I can even do things like export this data into PCAP, or I can get into a specific description of what the signature was. If I'm trying to understand it better, you'll see here that our signatures are standard regex query syntax. So you can, if your staff is regex savvy, they can come in here and fully understand what we're looking for associated with the signature. And you can even customize and build your own signature. So, for example, if you like this master table changes signature that's running on our DVM, but you want to make a modification, I only want to see master table changes associated with this particular field. You can take the signature and modify it in our policy editor so that you can say, hey, I want to see master table changes associated with tables called peanut butter and jelly, and modify the signature to look only for that particular event. You'll see under the details tab the full detail associated with the alert, source ports, dest ports. If we're sitting on a .1Q VLAN track, the decode for the VLAN information. So very rich data. But what becomes even more interesting is what I alluded to before when we were talking about the slides. The DVM really has 2 functions in the network. One is generating these security alerts on unusual, suspicious, interesting behavior. And 2 is always recording, it's always sitting there just like a network VCR, always recording all the session data. So you'll see here that under this drill down menu, I have this text here that says download session data. And what that allows me to do is I can now download all the session data that was associated with this particular event. In the current release of NitroView, when we download the session data, it exports it to an Excel spreadsheet. So I'm going to go ahead and pivot over to that Excel spreadsheet. In the next release of NitroView, you'll actually have your choice between viewing that session data in an Excel spreadsheet or observing it within the GUI itself. And go ahead and share that for you. So now you should be looking at our spreadsheet here. And you'll see on the left-hand side that we have the begin time for the session. So this isn't just the decode for that one event that we're looking at. We're looking at the full session decode over here. So you'll see under the text that I have a login essay at NitroSecurity. So you're actually capturing the user logging into the database. And as I scroll down here, you'll see all of their activity that was associated with that session. So in this case, they're adding a login for CalAll, add user, create database. So this has been a very busy user. So now I can go through here and audit every single thing that user did associated with that suspicious, interesting, unusual event that we registered in the NitroView GUI. Where this becomes extremely important and extremely useful is in security events, such as the ones that have been hitting the front page of newspapers and have been in the media a lot lately. When you hear, Heartland credit card systems, up to 5 million credit card users' information may have been lost. The reason why they say up to and may have is that they know that the database server was compromised. They know that there was some kind of data theft. And they know that there's 5 million credit card users' information sitting on that database server. But what they don't know is they don't know whether 4,999,999 users' records were lost, or one user's record was lost, or somewhere in between, because typically those environments, they are not running native auditing. They don't run native auditing because in a high-performance transaction environment, native auditing is death to performance. So they let the databases run. They have no security. They can't tell exactly what's been seen by users. With the NitroView DVM, because we have zero performance impact on that production data environment, we're just sitting passively on a spam port or a tap. We're not intruding on the traffic. We're not occupying CPU cycles or RAM on the database server. We can see every single session. So what I would have seen is, user Jay McCarty logging into the database and issuing a status log against, credit card PAN information. And I'll see, here's user Adam Abrams information coming back. Here's the next guy. Here's the next guy. It goes all the way down to the people whose last names start with C, and it ends. The query ends there for whatever reason. So now I know that, hey, he issued that query. He issued a wildcard query against that table. But for whatever reason, we only gave up 10,000 records out of 5 million, or maybe it's even fewer. Maybe it's 200 out of 5 million. So now you can remediate those 200 or 10,000 users. Maybe he doesn't get splashed across the national media or even the local media. In that case, it's a very small data breach, and we can prove to you exactly what was seen in that data breach. Okay. Any questions on that? Again, this, the full detail you'll see here as I scroll down. The full insert, use, select commands are all included here in the session decode.